Welcome to 144,000 Teachers, the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. We are entering into the menu at City Country, from City to Country Living, where we are looking at School of the Highest Order, True Education again, with looking at the agenda precisely for day number 1, where we're starting step number 1. And as you open up the agenda, you will find the reference right here, and it's directing you here to generation 144K. So what is the best to do is, as you enter generation 144K, you can go directly there on the menu of 144,000 teachers, and you will come up here at steps to health. So there is a few day tour, but this is particularly because we are teaching it for the first time at this session. And where you will get the material, it's actually at numbers 1317, where there is the PDF format that you can copy and the audio for each pages that you study. We highly recommend the book Steps to Christ, which we supply here in a PDF format as you click on this entry here. And it also will refer you to the Steps to Christ, Steps to Health in the Sanctuary in numbers 1317, where there is a combination between the two books, the two study, we should say, and then that will be making it even more interesting. We also recommend for you to click on this link of the Ministry of Healing, Working for the Intemperate. Highly recommended chapter where many beautiful suggestions and recommendations are given if you ever want to work with people who are suffering with alcoholism and drug addiction. So this is basically an entry, but we will bring you now to the numbers 1317 in the table of contents, where you can actually find it in file number 24. So there are 3 ways of doing it, but the best way would be simply go to numbers 1317, click on file number 24, and here we are, Research and Discovery on the Sanctuary and the 12 Steps to Health. And this entry gives you actually the method, the suggested method. And of course, you open up with the word of prayer and you read the 12 Steps to Health, adapted with the permission from Alcoholics Anonymous, to become a way of life for whosoever wish to apply them in their life. So way of life does not concentrate with the steps to health, to concentrate only for people who suffer from addiction of alcoholism, drugs, medication, but it's also for anybody that would like to improve their life. So that's why it has been adapted with the permission, and it does not use the steps per se. They have been actually adapted with permission. Then the procedure is to study the meaning of each step and complete with the study of the Serenity Prayer, the slogans, the Lord's Prayer, and of course, Steps to Christ, which we recommend greatly. This program may be used freely along with other files of numbers 1317 to set up group therapy study, including the 8 Laws of Health and the 10-day cleansing program offered in file number 7, which you find right here. We have prepared it in advance, but you simply need to go to the table of contents. And if you want to teach this, contrary to Alcoholics Anonymous, where there is no presentation of the health message, Way of Life combine both. We use the 12th step of the program of AA adapted, plus we do definitely use the program on health that we recommend. So we recommend definitely the study of the 8 Laws of Health. And then we offer a program for addiction, a 10-day cleansing program, which has been found very effective for alcohol and drugs and cigarette, as long as the procedure is followed and obeyed. And also there is a 10 days lifestyle program for depression and everyday stress. So when we look into those, it's a very, very advanced study. It's a very important study. There's also another suggestion is to combine this study with the animated sanctuary in file number 4. And the way to proceed is very simple. Again, we have brought it to your attention right here. This is the file number 4. and you simply go at the end where it says animated sanctuary, and it's animated because wherever you touch, you can click behind this, but it also gives you, if you're not familiar with the sanctuary, which we hope by the time we're finished with this conference, that you will have better knowledge, or at least an additional knowledge if you have already studied it, about the sanctuary. This sanctuary actually was prepared for a child, and it has been done many years ago. It's about 20 years old now, but it's still very highly effective for adult. And as you go along and you can follow every single number. It goes from 1, 2, 3, and you follow through. And you will find out something interesting, which we will show in another session on the 12-step program, is that, for example, just to give you a quick example, if you were to click on the door and you basically scroll at the end of the page, you will find that steps to Christ number 1, steps to health number 1 are presented together. So the steps to Christ is the sinner's need of Christ. And the steps to health number 1 is I admit that I am powerless to manage my own personal life, which is a step of admission. And then we proceed in reading for you, we're giving you here the reading for Steps to Christ, pages 17, 19, 21, and 22. Those are excerpts. So you can actually choose to read them directly from Steps to Christ book, which is highly recommended, as we said, to read. So every other steps and steps to Christ, steps to health, they are lined up actually in that whole sanctuary, which we will give you a chart for you to follow when we do the next session. For today, we want to concentrate on the step number 1 because we have not seen it yet, and the procedure, of course, of how to do this program, because it is a program. So therefore, these are the 12 steps to health. And usually the way we start, you can choose to do it otherwise, but we always open up with the Serenity Prayer. And the Serenity Prayer is kind of a very well-known prayer. And it simply goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So it's quite a beautiful prayer and adapted. And then we proceed with the 12th step to health. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. So we're just going to read for you, and we do that every time we do the 12-step program. We read the opening, which goes like this. The steps are a way of life for those who want to adopt them in their personal life. Life is given to grow physically, mentally, and spiritually. And this growth begins when I admit that I am powerless to manage my own life, when I make my own inventory and recognize my weaknesses, the way I have attributed to the fault to others, and in doing so, prolong self-pity. The 12 steps are steps to a higher plane. I learn in practicing them that I am not perfect, and I risk to remain so unless I accept the fact that I must do something about it. In following these steps, I receive courage and serenity and become helper, not help, giver and not taker. Little by little, I leave weakness behind and learn that growth, though painful, is worth the suffering. All the work of the 12th step is based on the two important truths. By the grace of God, I come to apply them in my life, and by surrendering my will and my life to him, I start to grow towards perfection and receive the power of the Holy Spirit to carry this message to others. So as you can see, it has been adapted from the 12th step for those of you who may know the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's personalized and it does not mention on purpose alcoholism or drug addiction or cigarette. And it works beautifully, as we mentioned earlier, with prison ministry, where we have worked for many years, and especially with the young people and even the adults who do not want or they're not prepared to admit that they have a problem. They're in prison, they're in jail, but they have no problem. But when you show them that they're powerless in maybe one area of their life, and this is what has happened to us in the past, where young people would say, I am not powerless. Well, the best answer is, well, tonight I will be sleeping in my bed. You will be sleeping in jail. So there is perhaps a bit of a problem in your life right now. And some of you may think it's a bit direct, but it's actually the truth and it works. Those people, sometimes they need a rude awakening. You don't have to be rude, but you can definitely show them that life is definitely difficult if you are in jail. So we're accustomed to work in the prison, but we don't adapt necessarily their language. But we have seen some good results in working in the prison with this program. It was actually at the request of the government that it was implemented in correctional institution after they discovered the program. Step number one. So what we do is this program lasts as long as you want to do it, but it has a basic program, a basic follow-up. It's very simple. So you do the introduction after you have prayed and you welcome the people, of course, and then you do the 12-step program. So you read them and you read them entirely every time. And then you start with step number one, step number two, depending where you are. And if you do it every week, well, it'll take you 12 weeks to do the 12 steps. And it's okay because the people need to learn them and then they can go back home and you can make copies of this. This is all PDF format. So we're going to read now the 12 steps to health. I admit that I am powerless to manage my own personal life. Step number two, come to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. Step number three, make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. Step number four, make a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. Step number five, admit to God, to myself, and to another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. Step number six, I am entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step number seven, humbly ask Him to remove my shortcomings. Step number eight, make a list of all the persons I have harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. Step number nine, make direct amends to such a people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step number 10, continue to take personal inventory and when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. Step number 11, seek through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. And step number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I carry this message to others and practice these principles in all my affairs. These steps, some people have not agreed with them, although the practice of it can definitely demonstrate that it is the truth. When you present these steps, you are not always dealing with people with religion, or if people have a religion, it may not be yours. So basically, it's a program to stop specifically for alcoholism and drug addiction or for something in your life that may not be functional. So if you want to add your personal faith in it, there is no problem. But we have discovered by experience for many, many years in working with this program and practicing it in our own life that people will actually come to understand and find the truth eventually and believe the truth as you bring them at this level step by step. So as we look at step number one, we click on it. It's very short. All of them are very short. First step is a step of admission. I admit that I am powerless to manage my own personal life. The simple words of the first step contain a whole philosophy of life that brings me to recognize that I have not been able to manage my life with wisdom. The difference also with the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon or Alateen. Al-Anon is the families and friends of alcoholics. Alateen is for children. And it's a very old program. It has existed since the 1940s and it's very effective to this day. And the difference between these programs of AA, Al-Anon, and Alateen is because it is we. They always say we. We admit we are powerless over alcohol. Where here is I admit, so it was personalized so you can apply it in your own life. And as you teach it to others, then they will see that it doesn't have to be necessarily a major problem, but it's very, very effective once you apply it. So we continue. The simple words of the first step, and I read it again, contain a whole philosophy of life that brings me to recognize that I have not been able to manage my life with wisdom. The submission suggested by these words prepares me for a new life that I cannot aspire to without letting go that which I cannot control or change. To reach this new way of life, I must undertake one day at a time the monumental task to put some order in my universe by changing my way of thinking. The first step does not ask resignation but acceptance. When I resign myself, I accept consciously, but in reality, in my subconscious, is the feeling that the day will come. That is not acceptance when the struggling continues. Acceptance is a state of mind that allows me to accept instead of rejecting or resisting. I am then able to understand, collaborate, follow, and become receptive to my higher power, who then has a chance to correct what seems hopeless. So it's a very, very simple, not complicated program that everyone can understand. And that's why it's applicable for young people as well in the prison and for young people in the home. Now we're going to pass. We have read now the 12th step and one step. Now we have what we call the 12 tradition, which are also adapted from Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is the purpose of the traditions. The traditions are a guide for the conduct and unity of the group. Since this way of life has no leader or regulation, the tradition form a common basis that help in the therapy of the group purpose, membership, money, public relations, leadership, and anonymity. These principles are suggested for the unity of this fellowship, and its survival depend upon adherence to them. The tradition protects against the destructive effects of the domination of a few members. They make every member equal, so it is possible to work together in groups and with harmony to the spiritual growth of everyone and mutual understanding. And this is actually that we have no rules as well. We say leaders or rulers or rules because that's what it is. Everybody is equal in this program. It's totally a different approach. And that's why also it makes it possible for us to grow and to allow everybody to grow and come up to a mutual understanding. With this way of life, contradiction becomes differences. It is the way that the problems are solved with an understanding made of tolerance and respect of others. We could add that this, if that was applicable or applied in any type of religion where you have group people or organization, probably there would be much more success. Because with this way, when it's anonymous in the sense that in this program, we do not usually let know of our last name. And we also protect the anonymity of others, and we do not gossip. Whatever comes to the program stays to the program, in the program. So with this way of life, contradiction become differences, and it is this way that the problems are solved with an understanding made of tolerance and respect of others. Beautiful philosophy. So here is the list of the 12 traditions. Tradition number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal progress for the greatest number depends upon unity. For our group purpose, there is but one authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. And this is what we try to apply as well for 144,000 teachers. Although we may have chairperson or we may have people that take care of a certain session, we consider ourselves all equal, all exactly the same level, because God is our main leader. And this is mightily important at 144,000 teachers. We do not have main leaders. Nobody is higher than another person. We're all teachers. We're all called to be teachers, remember? And we teach other teachers. So we're all equal. Tradition number 2, for our group purpose, there is but one authority. So remember that forever. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Tradition number 3, when gathered together for mutual aid, the members of Way of Life as a group have no other affiliation. The only requirement for membership is a sincere desire for personal growth. And by the way, these programs are always volunteer. We have never charged for our service in the prison. and we have done it for many, many years, and we have done it in different sessions as well. This program, the 12 step, is always volunteer. We do not charge for our services. Each group, tradition number 4, should be autonomous except in matters affecting the philosophy of the program as a whole. Tradition number 5, each group has but one purpose: to help the members of the group to accept themselves by practicing the 12 steps of the program and by carrying this message to others. Tradition number 6, our groups as such ought never to endorse, finance, or lend our name to any outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert from the primary spiritual aim that the program proposes. That also explains why Way of Life is a self-supporting program. We are not affiliated with any church or organization. We are our own entity as a charitable organization recognized by the government of our country. And we do not endorse necessarily. We may accept what they teach as their philosophy being valuable, but we do not promote this particular organization or this other one. Tradition number 6, this is very, very important because, again, it's to protect, again, our name, and also for not bringing any problem with money and property and prestige. You know what prestige does. Prestige is full of pride, and we know that pride comes before the fall, so we have to watch out. Tradition number 7, every group ought to be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. So that's why we have people who donate for the school, but it's a different entity than the 12-step program. Like, this program is very, very effective in the prison. If you have any, they're calling them here differently, correctional institute, but if you have institution, if you find some correctional institution, whether minimum or maximum security, you simply enter into contact with the volunteer. Usually they have personnel that are strictly, committed to finding volunteer to help in the prison. And it's good for the prison ministry because many times they do not have enough money or enough staff to do those programs. And we have always had excellent reception in the prison to do this program. And basically, they recognize that it has definitely a spiritual background. We don't go under a church, we go under a way of life. So that makes it even easier for the door to open. And then when we present the program, we do present anything we have in the program. So that's why they examine it and they see that we're definitely promoting a spiritual background based on the Bible. And they have no problem with that. Although we do not enter Bible unless we have permission. We do enter our material. So, number 8, Way of Life 12-step work, which is to carry the message to others, should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ social workers. So, which means that when we go and do the volunteer work, we do not charge. It doesn't mean necessarily that you cannot be a professional, but it means simply that you will not charge for your services. But when we do the administration of this program and the corporation, of course, that's a separate entity from that. We have to administrate this program. So we do, in effect, accept, also for the school, we accept donation in order to provide for our workers and our services. Tradition number 9, our group as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. Again, the meeting are not leading, they're not necessarily with leaders. We have rules and regulation per se for the program itself, but nobody takes over and he becomes or she becomes the personality of that group. The groups do not belong to one person. It's a team group, it's a group. So we have to accept that and understand it. Otherwise, you may want to start your own program. Tradition number 10, our group, Way of Life, have no opinion on outside issues, hence our name ought never be drawn into public controversy. That's why we're not involved with politics or even encouraging religious group or going to walk on the street to defend a certain position. If you're against this or against that, you can do it individually, but you cannot you cannot go, for example, on radio and TV and say, hi, I'm part of Way of Life and this is what we believe. You don't have that capacity to speak on the behalf of Way of Life as an individual. Tradition number 11, the public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, TV, and films. We need to guard with special care the anonymity of all other members. And that is in a group therapy, of course, of 12-step program, not at the level of when we talk about 144,000 teachers or generation 144K. It's basically entities under a big umbrella, if you will. So when you go under the umbrella of 12 steps and you do group therapy, it is anonymous and you have no right to go and repeat what you have heard there in that group, mention the names or mention, and if everybody wants to be really anonymous, that's how we do it in the prison as well. We only know the first name of the participant and they only know our first name as well. In prison, I think it's a good idea. You may not want to be found out. Just use your first name, which is good. I mean, the administrator will ask for your full name and address, and they will do they will ask for a police checkup. Probably that's what they do here. But for the people you work with in the prison, they're not your client, by the way. You're not a social worker or a lawyer. You're simply going to do volunteer work. All right. And you never go there to help them. Don't go to prison to help those people. They never need help. You just go there to visit and to be friendly and to present them with some ideas, some philosophy. Just use different terminology, because we have found out in the prison, and even with people who suffer from drug addiction and alcoholism, until they have accepted it and recognized it, you're not there to help them because they don't need any help. These people never need any help until they find out they need help, if you see what I mean. And the main person they need is not you anyways, is Jesus, is their savior. All right, so tradition number 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all these traditions, ever reminding us to place principles above personalities. So it's beautiful because it works really beautifully for those who have a little bit of a problem with wanting to be the chief. We have a say, too many chief, not enough Indians. Well, in this case, it doesn't happen. And if somebody has this attitude, the group as a whole has a right to correct that person. You don't start a big fight, but you can say, hey, according to the tradition, we don't have any leaders yet. We're all equal. We have a chairperson that can actually do every week. A different person becomes the chair. It's never the same person. There is no CEO in the 12-step program. There is no chief. There is no leader. Christ is the leader. All right, so now we are at the tradition number 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal progress for the greatest number depends upon unity. I always want to keep in mind that the help received from the group depends upon its unity. I will not be offended by what others do and will accept the fact that they want to help me. I will not criticize or take it personally. This is very good for those who are super sensitive. They may either leave or stay and change. So that's the idea. We go there for therapy. It's for our own good, right? So you will learn that over the time. And you also may discover that you have a hard time accepting criticism and you take it very personally and you could be very emotional. So it's a good character development program. This tradition does not mean that every member must be submerged by the group and cannot think and act individually. It exists for the survival of the group. This way of life is a program aimed at personal improvement based on the friendship and the interest of every member towards one another. The extensive study of the principles of the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and the slogan. That implies that unless the group survives, many individuals will not recover. Now, some people may say, well, what about if I want to do a Bible study? This is not a Bible study. You start your own Bible study. This is a group therapy based on the 12 step and the 12 tradition and other subject, like this one, for example. And you will see that for people who come to this program that have been hurt, they have a lot of trauma. Sure, the Bible can be brought in because we do study. We have a study on the Serenity Prayer. We also have a study on the Lord's Prayer. And we do study about God. That's definitely so. But remember, it's not a Bible study. It's a 12-step program, and it involves health. And as we go along during those next 12 days, we will do a 12-day, 12-step program. This is the first day. You will see the subject that we can add because it does involve a lot of health and having to do with bettering ourselves if we're not well physically as well. So again, we have another tool which we call the slogans. The slogans can be used the same way as the Serenity Prayer for guidance. They help on the spiritual plane to face difficulties and meet the challenge of life. They can also be used as mini steps. So if the steps are too big at first, the slogans are very, very efficient. And the way we do it in the group is to read the slogan. And you can have, if you have a place to do this, if you don't do it online, you can have actually some boards that says the slogan, and then the people learn them faster if they see the list, and so is the step. These can also be all copied, by the way. It's all PDF files. So therefore you can copy them, put them into a binder. You can have it in place when you do your program. You can make copies for people to leave home. Don't give them the whole package, but you can also basically give them a little bit at a time. And you may ask, well, where do we get the money? Well, there is one thing that we do in those programs is we do have a offering. So if people have money, you take a basket and they can put the money in it at the beginning, or you don't pass the basket, you just put it in the center. And this money is strictly to be used for literature, to pay for printing. If somebody has more money than another and wants to do an offering and go to the printer and print the whole thing, that's acceptable. We just don't want to do, we're not doing a bank, we're not opening like, we can have a bank account per se, but we do not want to have a lot of money and make a lot of money with this. This is not to sell, don't sell anything, please. So this is basically to learn how to share this program with others. So if you want to make copies, yeah, you can make copies. It could be a gift to the group. And you want to call it a group, that's fine, whatever name. It's called Way of Life, by the way. And so Way of Life 12-step program. So you could call it simply Way of Life, and it's part of our school program. So let go and let God slowly does it. Live and let live. First thing first. Think, meditate things one day at a time. By the grace of God, keep an open mind. How important is it? Keep it simple. And then you ask a newcomer, we call them newcomer old timers in this group, meaning that the old timer, that means they have been there longer, and the newcomer just arrived. And that's okay. It's not offensive, because if they're newcomers, they may choose not to talk. So you respect that. After a while, they will understand how the program function, and anybody can be invited. It is not a matter you have to be of a certain religion or a certain politics. There's nothing like that in this group. That's the beauty of it. And since you only ask for the first name, insist on that. Don't ask for the last name and what do you do for job. That's not the place. We're not a committee. We're not social workers. We're simply helping one another. So you can ask somebody, which slogan do you want? So today I have the choice. I'm the chairperson. Then I will choose Let Go and Let God. So you click on it. And again, it's always very short. So let's read that. It's a good one because it's to learn the first step. Let go and let God. To surrender the will to God is not just a passport to inertia. God's help is available, but we must also do our share. However, if my problem seems to have no solution at this time, I would let go and let God. He will do it if I allow him to act. I then receive peace and learn to relax, and nothing seems as hard as before. By letting go, it takes away the heavy load from my shoulders, and it allows me to breathe normally again. If I find it difficult to let go, perhaps it is that I believe I'm the only one who can solve my problems. God's help is always near as long as I give him a room in my life. As suggested in the 3rd and 11th step, I should always be ready to accept his direction. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 6 says, in all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your path. So you can see that we do use the Bible and we do believe in it and we do definitely, present it. However, we do not do Bible studies. So do not start doing a Bible study on this particular verse. But if there are people in the group who wants to have it personally, then it's your choice, but not in the group meeting. All right. So we have reached the end of the meeting, and what you can do, it's about an hour. At this time, we're doing 45 minutes for lack of time, but we want to be precise, so we're going to make it for 45 minutes. But the next 15 minutes usually we use for a subject. It could be the reading of the steps to Christ. If you have done the step number 1, we could open up the sanctuary and find, for example, steps to Christ and step number 1 and steps to help and steps to Christ. That's how we call them: steps to Christ, steps to help. And it's at the door. So you click on the door of the sanctuary, and that's how, if you don't have the book with you, you can make sure you have it. I can't recall exactly. Oh, there it is. So if you click on the door right here, and we will have the chart for you to be able to follow without searching, because it can take a while to go through all the pieces of furniture of the sanctuary. And here you can simply read it. It's right here. So steps number 1 is the sinner need of Christ. And we know that the steps to health is I admit that I am powerless to manage my own life, which is a step of admission. And then you can tell one person or two or everybody could read each a paragraph, and you can close the meeting, discuss a little bit, and close the meeting on time. Usually it lasts about an hour. For people who are not accustomed to long meeting, it's not as scary, and then they can come back. And then you can do an after hour where you can stay for, maybe another 15-20 minutes. Don't exaggerate, because people want to go home. And if you do it in a home or in a place where you have free access, it's okay. We usually do not rent. We don't have any money. We don't raise money, so except for our own expenses. And schools, churches, we have done it in churches and schools where you gather a group. We have done it in prison, which doesn't cost anything for us. So there are many places where you can start this group. In our school, and we want to start one program like this. It can be done at the school itself. It's fabulous because we have all the meeting room, but it has to be separate from the training. Like if you have a school program that is going on health, a program that's going on how to become a lifestyle educator, you can teach the people how to do the program, but that's not the place to bring the members of the way of life. They're called members, by the way. They're not teachers. They're not students. They're members. So you become a members of Way of Life, steps to health, 12 steps to health. That's fine. Just define a special 1 hour in the evening or the afternoon. It's okay if they don't mind being known that they're coming for the 12 steps to health, because it's anonymous. All right. So then, of course, then we close with the word of prayer, which we choose to be the Lord's Prayer. If you have a prayer that you want to say on your own, that's fine. But sometimes people are not as used to as you are to pray. So the Lord's Prayer is a very well-known prayer. It's biblical. It comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 9 to 13. But it's very well known. So as we close now, we're going to just do the ending of this meeting. We will recite the Lord's Prayer. And again, if you want to choose, eventually you finish with the 12th step, and you want to read the 12th step with the 12 steps to health in the sanctuary with the 12 steps to Christ, or with the book, that's good. But you can do it for months and months and months, so you need material. We have the Serenity Prayer, we have the Lord's Prayer, and anytime where it's blue, you can click on it and you will see a short explanation of each one of these wonderful studies. So it can take you quite a while to get over the material that we have. And if you have finished, you can repeat it too, because there will always be newcomers. And usually if you have a group of about 12 people, you want to start another group. You want to stay small. This is not an assembly of 1,000 people. That's not the way it goes. Sometimes they will have some congress where they do bring those people together in AA and in Al-Anon. But these are public meetings. They're open to the public. They're not, these one are private meetings. They have to be private so you can respect the anonymity of the people. So when people come, if they want to join in, there's no problem, but there's no personality. It's not because it's a doctor or a lawyer that you're going to give them the chair and they take over like the CEO. No, that's not the tradition. So we're going to close with a word of prayer now. And as we go along for the next 11 days, we will do a real presentation. Now this was real, but we will give less explanation and get more into the way we do it. So after 12 days, you will have understood the 12-step program. And so we're going to pray now the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And let us not fall into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Hallelujah. All right, so you have a good day or evening as you study these programs. And if you do not quite agree with certain things in the program, that's fine. We're okay. We're open for suggestion. Like right now, we may choose to change this actually. Let us not fall into temptation. The Lord does not make us fall into temptation, but some people think they do. But that's the original translation from the Greek. However, we're not here to debate theology. We're here to help one another. There's one other page that I have not showed that will also be presented when we study, is the page where you can learn how to develop character development. And these are part of the study. They're very, very good study as well. And it's based on Mind, Character, and Personality, Volume 1 and 2, and Ministry of Healing, which we can give you the reference for your perusal. But these are the 12 steps to health, which were adopted with the written permission of Alcoholics Anonymous in New York, in 1981. And we have to give the credit because the permission was granted for free, of course, but we have to repeat the credit each time. So may the Lord bless you now as we have finished this session, and see you for the next day of the step number 2. God bless you.